Namaste to everyone. This is Shivaram Krishna. Let me welcome you all to the Mahabharata. So there are a lot many questions in everybody's mind, and even some of my friends asked me to do this actually. The questions are like this: who are Talibans? Why did they actually take the control of the Afghanistan? And the questions like, how can a government just fell like that to a small group or a small organization like Taliban? How can 3 lakh people, how can 3 lakh soldiers or army of the Afghanistan just surrender to the 60 to 70,000 or 70 to 80,000 of numbered Taliban? How can a country like United States just withdrew from the Afghanistan by having a peace deal with Taliban and ignoring the Afghan government itself, which it actually owed to protect, and perhaps even it is morally obliged to protect? So before going into the questions which I have said earlier, let me tell you a very beautiful point here, that Afghanistan is also like any other country. The moment we listen about Afghanistan, we only get in our mind about the violence, about the terror, about the malnutrition, about the women's decreased rights, or women's ignorance, or women's oppression. This is a stereotypic thinking, my friends. This is a stereotypic thinking. We should stop this at the moment itself. Actually, Afghanistan is also like every other country. But just because of some uncivilized elements, some violent elements started dominating in Afghanistan, it was painted like that. The opinion of the world was painted, was driven by the media like that. But the fact will always that the people are always beautiful. Afghan people always love the Indian people a lot, if you know this. They love the India a lot because we have a huge and deep cultural relations into the time. If you see, we have a very deep connection, deep cultural integration between the Afghanistan people and Afghan culture. Even those people knew it. That's the reason we willfully wanted Afghanistan to be stabilized and Afghan people, their life to be stable and peaceful and prosperous. That's the reason even India invested around 200 to 300 crores and perhaps $2 to $3 billion India invested there in airports, in construction of airports, in construction of roads, in construction of parliament, in construction of schools, especially women's schools, for educating a girl child. So this is what all India has been doing since last 20 years. But suddenly everything was shocked. Everything was shut. It is looking like all these investments and all of the efforts of India to uplift the Afghanistan, to stabilize the Afghanistan and their people's lives, they are looking like they went into vain. But is that so? Is Afghanistan really a violent country? Why it actually became like that? Let us see. So now, as I always say, that we have to go back in time. So let us go back in time. This is 2021. So let me take you all throughout to the starting of the civilizations itself. Because the story, if I can narrate from there itself, you will understand. And this stereotyping thinking about Taliban, violence, terror, Afghanistan. So when you listen Afghanistan, these are the negative elements that you are thinking about. But let me take you to the beautiful period of the Afghanistan, beautiful eras of the Afghanistan. From there we start and start understanding which changes led and which changes took Afghanistan to this state of affairs. Perhaps even this analysis may even be useful to predict and to behave in our country also. The situations and everything, the changes that we are taking up. So let us go back in time and see how actually Afghanistan was and how it fell to an organization like Taliban today. So first, if you have to understand anything about a country, first, in my view, you have to understand the geography of the country. Because everything, the culture is very, very integrated with the geography or the topography. Yes or no? So let us discuss about, first of all, the geographical conditions of the Afghanistan, so that you will understand why they are too different from other people, why Afghans are too different in their culture. And my statement is, if you understand the geography, you will understand the culture of them, very unique culture of the Afghan people. The first point, if you have to understand Afghanistan, sir, on the world map, it is almost in the center of the Asia. It is almost at the center of the Asia, and perhaps that is the reason the world scholars refer Afghanistan as the heart of the Asia. It is the heart of the Asia, sir. Afghanistan, the beautiful country, it is the heart of the Asia. And it is at the crossroads of the Asia. For example, if this is Asia, Afghanistan would be at the center. So this is a connecting land between the Middle East countries and the Western Asia countries to the rest of the Asia. That is the China, India, Russia, Southeast Asia, etc. So Afghanistan's location itself is very strategic in its characteristic. That is the reason every stakeholder in the Asia has their own interest in Afghanistan's stability and Afghanistan's peace. So if you see the geography of the Afghanistan, as I have said, the first point is that it is at the center of the Asia. So for example, a South Asian to reach Central Asia, that is, Central Asia means Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan and Turkmenistan. These are the 5 countries. So if a South Asian person like an Indian or Pakistan or Sri Lankan or Bhutanese or a Nepali like that, or a Maldives, if we have to reach the Central Asia, we have to cross through the Afghanistan. Reaching out means, for example, let we restrict ourselves to the economy domain. For example, if you want to trade with land route, in the land route, if you want to trade with the Central Asia, the role of Afghanistan is very crucial. The peace and the stability in the Afghanistan is very crucial to us. For example, if China wants to reach out to Iran, the role of the Afghanistan is very important. If Russia wants to reach out to Pakistan, the role of the Afghanistan, which is in between them, is very important. And if China wants to reach out to some West Asian countries, the role of the Afghanistan is very important. So in a nutshell, to say, the strategic location of the Afghanistan itself made it vulnerable even. So it is almost like if you have a very beautiful house in the center of the village, at the crossroads of your village, everyone will have a look on a look to capture your home or to capture your plot. It is just like that, because Afghanistan's location itself too strategic. Every foreign country wants to influence it at all, influence it in every possible domain because of their self-interest. So this is the first point to be understand. The location of the Afghanistan itself made it vulnerable to the foreign and all other influences or ideologies or exchange of ideologies of all other nations of the world. Now, in the geography, we are discussing about the geography of the Afghanistan. First point is it has a very strategic location. That's why everyone have interest in the country. Now, if you see the second important point, that is in the geography of the Afghanistan, the topography. Let me say about the topography. It was the complete country, almost 60 to 70% of the Afghanistan, its topography was mountainous in nature, sir. Mountainous. Why I am telling this? Because, sir, if it is a plain, there some type of settlements will occur. if it is a mountainous region, some different types of settlements will occur, and culture which develops there will always be depending upon the topography. For example, in the plain regions, you will see lot many cities will come up. In, for example, Ganga plains, we have lot many cities came up. For example, Godavari plains, for example, Kaveri plains, and every river plains. In the plain region, you will have not only river fed regions, but even on the plain regions, you will have some settlements, dense settlements, popular settlements. And on the mountainous regions, you cannot expect such popular or dense populace at those topographic areas. And if you see, in every mountainous region, for example, if I have to say in the northeast of our country, you will see the rise of extremism. And in the western Ghats of our country, you will see the rise of extremism, that is the Naxalism or the Maoism. And in the region of West Bengal, where the Darjeeling hills were there you see the extremism, rise of extremism. A different type of war are called as the guerrilla war. So you are just linking up, right? Just like that, because Afghanistan's topography, 60% of the topography was mountainous in region. For that reason, a new culture, perhaps has come because of those some contribution of the topography. So second point was 60% of the Afghanistan's topography was mountainous in region. So they are unique to the world. Their culture was unique. And now the third important reason was, sir, Afghanistan is a landlocked country on all sides. They have no access to the seas. They have no access to the oceans. So it was completely landlocked by all sides by different countries. So you can see normally, for example, so instability is already there inside this location itself. The location of Afghanistan itself, gave it instability. We have on our west side we have Pakistan, in the east side in the north side we have China. Just because we are having only two side borders with two countries, we are having lot many problems with Pakistan, lot many border problems with China. You just imagine if a country is completely surrounded by different countries, there is no sea connection and ocean connection. You can imagine how much instability or how much border problems that country can face with other countries. So it is a completely landlocked country, Afghanistan. This is the another point which makes Afghanistan what it is today. Every point has some contribution, sir. Every point, because it is in strategic location. Second point was Afghanistan's complete topography was mountainous in region, and the third important point was in the geography of Afghanistan. It is landlocked country. And now let us see what are the countries which surrounded this Afghanistan. These are very important points, sir, because to understand the next coming story, you have to understand this. So, in the just the borders of Afghanistan, let us analyze. Towards the northeastern portion of the Afghanistan, we have a very big country. For Afghanistan, they have a very big country, China. So, if you see the border line with China, in the province which was connected to Afghanistan was Xinjiang province of China, Xinjiang. And you will see in this Xinjiang region, they are also Muslim country. They are also Islam province. That the Xinjiang province of China, which has border with Afghanistan, they also have this Islam population. They are Uyghur Muslims. We call them as Uyghur Muslims. So always you can expect some cultural exchange between the borders, between different countries. So with China it has border, and in the northern side if you see, it has border line with three Central Asian countries. For example, Kazakhstan, it also has border with Uzbekistan. It also has border with Turkmenistan. So three Central Asian countries. For example, if something happens in these three countries at the border places, that will spill over to Afghanistan. If something happens in the Chinese Xinjiang province, that will spill over to the Afghanistan. And towards the west, if you see, this Afghanistan country has a border with a long border towards the west with Iran. Sir, Iran is a Islamist country, and Iran's section which was ruling was Shia section of the Muslim or Islam. So that ideologies will always spill over to the Afghanistan. There is a vulnerability. And if you see towards the south of the Afghanistan, they have a border line with Pakistan. And towards the southeast, if you see, Afghanistan has border with the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. For example, India, we recognize Pakistan occupied Kashmir as our own. That means even India also have a border with the Afghanistan. But Pakistan says Pakistan occupied Kashmir was theirs. If that is the case, that means India doesn't have a border with Afghanistan. But we maintain the stand that Pakistan occupied Kashmir is ours. So these are all the countries which in between this Afghanistan was sandwiched horizontally. China, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran, Pakistan, and Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So if something happens in any of these border countries, that will spill over to the Afghanistan. So it is the most vulnerable country, perhaps to say. So this is about the geography, and let us see about the ethnic composition of the Afghanistan. Ethnic composition. Who lives there? Ethnic means who lives there? Which uniquely cultural people lives there? So mainly, if you see the population of the Afghanistan, right now their population was estimated to be around 3 crores 80 lakhs or approximately 4 crores. Out of this 4 crore population, so the uniqueness of this Afghanistan was they are all not united. They are divided into different ethnic groups. They identified themselves as different ethnic group rather than of a nation. For example, we as Indians, we first identify ourselves as Indians and then as either Telanganas or Hyderabadis or Kannadas or Telugu, like that. So our first identity will always be nation. But in Afghanistan, the conditions were different to such an extent that they owe their loyalty first to their tribe, not to the nation. So this concept of nationhood itself was very low in Afghanistan. They owe their loyalty to whom? Their tribe, their particular tribe or ethnic group. So majorly, if you see in Afghanistan, there are 4 important ethnic groups present in Afghanistan. 4 important ethnic groups. Out of the 4 crore population, around 42% of the Afghanistan today, according to the today's composition, if I say, 42% of the Afghans were Pashtuns. So Pashtun, being a Pashtun, they feel very proud in Afghanistan rather than identifying themselves with the national of Afghanistan. They say very proudly, I am a Pashtun, but they don't say such proudly, I am an Afghani or I am an Afghanistani national. So you understand it, right? They love to be a part of tribe more, their own tribe more than to be a part of nation. So Pashtuns were of 42%, and the next important tribe, ethnic group was Tajikis. Why Tajikis? Because I have said already, Tajikistan, the Central Asian country, has a border with Afghanistan. So normally that people, the ancestors of them would be living here. So even Tajikis, they became the second important dominated ethnic group in the Afghanistan. They are of 27%. So Pashtuns were 42%. Tajikis, because Tajikistan was the borderland, they have Tajikis ethnic group of 27%. And the third important ethnic group was called as Hajaras. Hajaras. So these ethnic groups are uniquely uniquely living themselves. They don't unite and they don't say they all are Afghanis. They very proudly say they belong to one particular tribe. This was the culture of Afghani people. So it is. Are you not understanding that this culture or composition was looking like a tribal outlook? Tribal outlook. Afghanistan itself looks a tribal outlook. It was not a modern nation. The concept of nation has not infused into the people till today, even till today, sir. So they are completely ethnically divided people. This was inbuilt a reason for the ongoing instability and ever-going instability. They are different, they are divided upon ethnic lines. So Pashtuns were 42%, Tajikis were 27%, Hajaras were around 9%, and the fourth important ethnic group present in Afghanistan was Uzbek, the Uzbeks, because Uzbekistan was also a border country with Afghanistan. So they are almost 9%. So now you understand, right, what is the composition of Afghanistan. There are very different ethnic groups. Pashtuns of 42%, Tajikis of 27%, Hazaras of 9%, and Uzbeks are of 9%. The problem is not having diversity of ethnic groups. The problem is they are not unified and they are not seeing themselves first as nationals of Afghanistan, but they are seeing themselves as the part of a particular tribe only. So they love their tribe more than the nation. So among these four different ethnic groups, who are dominant? So the majority population would be dominant always. So Pashtuns, 42% they are Pashtuns. So Pashtuns are dominant tribe in the Afghanistan. Since ancient times, sir, since ancient times. And if you see the religion of the Afghanistan, the religion, right now, the present composition, if you see, all these are ethnic groups, almost every ethnic group, 9 out of all these 4 crore population, 99.7% are of Islam. 99.7% are of Islam, sir. That means almost the entire country follows one religion, that is Islam. So you are connecting with the points, right? Being in strategic position, location, being in the center of the Asia, being so vulnerable, having more borderlands with many countries, and having different divided ethnic lines, and having one strong religion influencing the people a lot. So these are all become the reasons in future, in the story, that you will understand in future, in the latter times, that why actually conflict arose. So let us see how actually in the ancient period, how this Afghanistan was, managed, was evolved in the ancient period. Let us, yes. So let us now discuss about the Afghanistan history in just 3 different silos. First, we will discuss about the ancient Afghanistan. So how actually the Afghanistan civilization started and how they evolved through cultural domain. So what happened? How the people started accustoming themselves as one nation or one community. So first we will discuss about the ancient part of the Afghanistan, and then we will discuss about the medieval history of the Afghanistan. So in the medieval period, that is from around 600 CE to around 1500 CE. So what was happening in this period? And after 1700, we will discuss in detail in the form of the modern Afghanistan history. So when you study a country in the spectrum of time, you will understand the exact seeds which were sown in the history, which created the havoc, which created the problem today that we are seeing. So, as I have said you already, now let us discuss about the ancient, up to around 600 CE, till 600 CE, from ancient times, how Afghanistan was actually managed itself. So the first point, as I have already said you, when we discussed about the geography of the Afghanistan, that it is a mountainous country. The topography is mountainous, landlocked country, and it was bordered by lot many countries. And even the ethnic composition is very, very diverse. So upon all these, in the domain of all these, we will study the ancient Afghanistan. So these things, actually having the border with lot many countries, having a strategic location, and having mountainous terrain, being a landlocked country, all this actually made Afghanistan too vulnerable for foreign invasions. So too vulnerable for foreign invasion. For example, if China, as I have already told you, that China wants to reach out to the Iran, it has to pass through Afghanistan. If India wants to reach out to Central Asia, it has to pass through Afghanistan. If Russia wants to reach out to Pakistan, it has to pass through Afghanistan. So every country and every empires, in general to say, wanted to conquer Afghanistan. Since ancient times, sir, not now, since ancient times. So let me give you some examples. At the time of the Alexander the Great, so what was the time period? By around 320 BC. So now we are in the time 320 BC, when Afghanistan was, tried to be conquered. Afghanistan was under the eye of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great reached to Afghanistan and he tried to conquer Afghanistan. Alexander the Great, who wants to conquer the world, he first came. He was the first foreign invasion. He came with the foreign invasion policy, and he tried to conquer Afghanistan. So after Alexander the Great, if you see, after 100 years of that period, in our India, we have seen a great empire come up, and that was Mauryan Empire. It was at the peak during the time of Ashoka. We all knew that. So during that period, when Ashoka Empire was on the rise, even the Mauryan Empire tried to conquer the Afghanistan by, at around 200 BC. That was the time period. So even Mauryan Empire wanted to conquer the Afghanistan. And after that, if you see, at around the time of Muslim period, that is when after 600 CE, if you see, when Islam has come onto the world stage, even the Arab Muslims wanted to conquer the Afghanistan, because Arab Muslims were actually, they worked on the trade. Actually, the Islam itself was flourished because of the Arab Muslims' occupation or profession. That was the trade. So Afghanistan was the crossland in the crossroad of the Asia. So for trade, a geographical location like Afghanistan is very important. So after 600 CE, if you see, by around 640 and 50s, even the Arab Muslims who came to do trade with other countries, they also tried to conquer. The Islamic Empire wanted to conquer Afghanistan. This is what happened around 640 CE. And after 500 years, if you see, by 1200 CE, even from the north, what I have said, from Alexander the Great came from the west, and even this Islamic Empire, they also came from the west. But from the north of the Afghanistan also came some foreign invaders, and they are like, for example, by 1200 CE, under Genghis Khan. He was considered to be the most fierce tribal ruler of the Mongol Empire. So even Genghis Khan, with Mongol army, he tried to conquer the Afghanistan. He invaded Afghanistan in around 1200 CE. He also wanted to conquer the Afghanistan. And after that, if you see, by around after 1800s, if you see, in the modern period, towards the south of the Afghanistan, we have seen the rise of British Empire, British Indian Empire. And even this British Indian Empire wanted to conquer Afghanistan in 1800s. And towards the towards the late 19th century and in the initial 20th century, that is in the 1900 after 1900s, we have seen in the competition to the British Empire towards the north and northeast of the Afghanistan, there came a new empire, that is the Russian Empire. So after 1950s, clearly to say, even this Russian Empire, this Russia also during the 1900s, even Russian Empire wanted to conquer Afghanistan. And in the modern, after 1947, when Soviet Union was formed, and when US and Soviet Union became two superpowers of the world after the World War II battle. World War II, when these two won, US and Soviet Union, they entered into Cold War with each other. Despite they combinedly won the World War II, now they too were in competition after 1947. So if you see towards the end of the 1900s, after that is 1960s, 70s, Soviet Union wanted to have influence in this Afghanistan. Soviet Union ideologically want to convert this Afghanistan into a communist country. And when US was seeing this, and towards the end of the when Soviet Union was collapsed, even United States wanted to not conquer but have influence over the Afghanistan. If you see, since ancient times till today, every foreign empire and every foreign countries, to say in the modern terms, wanted to have influence over the Afghanistan. But for example, from Alexander the Great to even the Mauryan Empire, and after that Arab Muslims, after that British Indians, after that Soviet Union, and after that United States and the NATO, everyone wanted to conquer Afghanistan and everyone wanted to have influence over Afghanistan. But as I have said, because of this vulnerability, these all wanted to exploit the country, the vulnerabilities this Afghanistan have, because of this terrain, because of its landlockedness, because of the different ethnic composition. So these became weakness to the country. So everyone wanted to conquer this. But here lies the actual beauty in the Afghan country itself, Afghanistan itself. The beauty is, no foreign empire could able to establish and could able to conquer Afghanistan. No empire till today could able to conquer Afghanistan, sir. Alexander the Great has failed, Mauryan Empire failed, Arab Muslims failed, British Empire failed, Soviet Union failed, and even today, if you see in 2021, after August 15, you know that even United States and the NATO failed to have influence over the Afghanistan. That is the reason. Now I am going to explain you the most important point about Afghanistan. That is, because of this analysis that we have seen, because of this reason, because Afghanistan is unconquerable, it is called as, by the world community, Afghanistan is referred to as the graveyard of empires. You might have listened in the news, right? The graveyard of empires. Why? Because of every empire, if tries to conquer Afghanistan, it has failed and the empire has fallen, but the Afghanistan could not fall into the hands of the empires. So Afghanistan is called as the graveyard of the empires. The graveyard of the empires. So this is, to this point I have explained all these foreign invasions. But let us see the ancient Afghanistan, how actually it was. Ancient. Sir, after, on the world stage, everywhere, if you see the civilizations coming to world stages, the civilizations have come up after 3000 BC, especially after 3000 BC. So in the Afghanistan, from 3000 BC to around 1900 BC, yes, we found that this Afghanistan was habited by the people and civilization flourished even in the Afghanistan during this time, 3000 BC to 1900 BC. And very interestingly, let me tell you a point, that in the southern Afghanistan, that is towards the south of the Hindu Kush mountains, which were in the eastern portion of the Afghanistan, towards the south of that, in the south Afghanistan, we found a city, an ancient prehistoric city, which is scientifically found to be a part of Indus Valley civilization. That means during the Indus Valley civilization even extended towards the southern Afghanistan also. So Afghanistan is also a part of Indus Valley civilization during this period, 3000 BC to 1900 BC. We found a city exactly like the Indus Valley civilization cities. So scientists, upon the scientific evidence, they clarified that Afghanistan was also a part of Indus Valley civilization. Now after 1900 BC, if you see, now we will go in timeline. So please listen carefully. This timeline is very important to understand the present Taliban conflict. So after 1900 BC, if you see, to almost around 800 BC, so 1000-year period. In that period, on the world stage, we have seen the coming up of new religions. For the first time, new religions. In India, after 1800 BC, after 1500 BC, we have seen the rise of Hinduism, the oldest religion of the world. Hinduism. Just in parallel to that, in the Afghanistan, we found, the research historians said that they found a new religious culture. That was the Zoroastrianism in Afghanistan. From 1800 BC to around 800 BC, we found a new religion there, that is Zoroastrianism. The founder of the religion was believed to be Zoroaster, and he was believed by the historians to be lived and died in the Balkh region of the Afghanistan. So even Afghanistan, the ancient Afghanistan, contributed a religion to the world, sir. The ancient religion which is in parallel to the Hinduism, they contributed it to the world, that is the Zoroastrianism. Religion, oldest ancient religion, they contributed to the world, sir. This is the beauty of the Afghanistan civilization. Now, if you see after 800 BC, what is happening in the country, in the India and on the world stage, what was happening? By 1600 BC itself, in India, we found the ancient India, we found the rise of Jainism, we found the rise of Buddhism. And if you see by 600 BC, this Buddhism which started in India expanded itself and spill over itself into the Afghanistan also. How? Because of the empires. When empires come up, when empires become too large, when the lands come into the part of the empire, even the religion will go there. That's how Buddhism was also one of the dominant religion in the Afghanistan during the period of 600 BC to around 600 CE, sir. In that period, from 600 CE, medieval part will start. We call till 600 BC as ancient Afghanistan, ancient period. So from 800 BC to 600 CE, almost it is also around 1000 BC, we found the flourishing of the both Zoroastrianism in some parts of the Afghanistan, and Buddhism was flourished in this period, sir. Buddhism in Afghanistan, mainly under the Kushan Empire in the 2nd century BC. In the Kushan Empire, we found the Kushan Empire's heartland was Afghanistan. They ruled even India, the northern portion of the northwest portion of the India. They ruled Kushans from Afghanistan, and the religion adopted by Kushans was Buddhism, and Afghanistan was flourished even under the Buddhism till around 600 CE. I'm sorry. So by 600 CE, if you see, when this Buddhism and Zoroastrianism was flourishing in Afghanistan, what happened on the world stage? By 600 CE, after 6 CE means AD, after the Anno Domino, AD means. So 600 AD, if you see, after 625, we could see the rise of Islam on the world stage. So normally, the influence of Islam will always be there on the world itself, even including the Afghanistan. So by 640 AD, if you see, when before that Buddhism and Zoroastrianism was flourishing in Afghanistan, and by 640 AD, for the first time we have seen Islam through the Arab merchants, through the Arab traders, through the Arab Muslims entered the Afghanistan. Especially there are two provinces of Afghanistan which invited the, which welcomed the Islam. That was the Herat province and the Zaranj province. Zaranj and Herat. These are the two provinces. Provinces means the states of Afghanistan. There are 33 states right now in Afghanistan. 33 provinces. So these are the two provinces. By 640 AD, Islam entered. And now let us discuss about the medieval Afghanistan. Then what happened? So Buddhism was there. That means the Buddhism, some section of the people of Afghanistan are Buddhist and some section of the people are Zoroastrians by then. But after 640 AD, if you see the composition, religious composition, even Islam section was also started growing up. Islam started growing up after 640 AD. And from 640 AD to around 1200 AD. So that was around 600 years period. And in that period, there are many empires came up which are Islamic in their nature. Islamic empires came up after 640 AD. Safavids, Samanids, Safarids, Ghaznavids, Ghurids, like that. These are the Islamic empires. So under these Islamic empires, when they came up, especially because Afghanistan surrounding country, that was Iran. So Iran was an Islamic country, Persian country, Islamic country. So these Iranian Safavids, Iranian Samanids, Iranian Safarids, they used to spread Islam in the Afghanistan. And after that, from the Afghanistan itself, by around 1000 and 1100 AD, we could see large Islamic empires came up from Afghanistan itself. For example, like Ghaznavids. The Ghaznavid empire came from Afghanistan itself. It is under Ghazni. It is flourished. The Islam was flourished during this period. So now Afghanistan started Islamizing after this Ghaznavid empire. And after Ghaznavids, Ghurids has come. Ghurids empire, that is also from Afghanistan. This is still Islam, still strengthened to the grassroots. So the older Buddhists, older Zoroastrians, they were also converting. Some people were converting into Islam, and some were forcibly converting, and some are, they were fleeing away, or the population. In conclusion, the population of other sections started reducing, and the Islamic population started growing up under the Ghaznavid empire, under the Ghurid empire. So there is one ruler, Islamic ruler, who completely Islamized almost to the 90% extent, was Mahmud of Ghazni. Mahmud of Ghazni. This name is very important, sir. And this ruler, under this ruler, Afghanistan, complete Afghanistan was Islamized. So by 1100 AD, now if you see the outlook of Afghanistan, it was Islamized. Completely Islamized. Now, after 1200 AD, now we are in 1200 AD. By now, Buddhists were there, Zoroastrians were there, but most of the country was under Islamic influence, because of the influence of the Islamic empires. Now, by 1200 AD, if you see, from the north of the Afghanistan, this Genghis Khan has come. Genghis Khan, he is a tribal outlook, completely tribal ruler. So Genghis Khan with Mongol army, he invaded the Afghanistan. So Islamic empires shattered completely in the Afghanistan. They were shattered. So when Genghis Khan invaded Afghanistan, he kept in the northern side of the Afghanistan, he kept one administrator, and in the southern side, he kept one administrator. And these northern side Afghanistan rulers who came after the Genghis Khan, who ruled after the Genghis Khan invasion, they are called as the Ilkhanids. And toward the south of the Afghanistan, see, always remember, by geography defines the culture. This is very important principle I said in the starting of the video itself. So if you see the geography of the Afghanistan, the northern Afghanistan was plains. It has plains. Planary ground, plain topography. That means lot many cities will come. The urbanization will flourish only in the northern section of northern side of the Afghanistan. And the southern side, it was mountainous in nature because Hindu Kush mountains were there in the middle, and towards the south of the Hindu Kush mountains, they are completely mountainous topography. So, south of the Afghanistan was truly tribal in outlook, truly rural in outlook. So the Genghis Khan, after Genghis Khan invaded Afghanistan, he kept Ilkhanids on the northern side, who are ruling as an urbanite section. And towards the south of the Hindu Kush mountains of Afghanistan, he kept the after Genghis Khan, who ruled the south of the Afghanistan, they are the Khaljis. This is in the 1250s like that. So Khaljis, Ilkhanids and the Khaljis, they are ruling the Afghanistan. So the Iranian Islamic culture was shattered, and Khaljis were also Muslims. They are also Islamic people, but their culture was something different from them. So this cultural diversity started accumulating in the country. And by 1300 BC, AD, now we are in 1250. In the 1250, Ilkhanids were ruling the northern Afghanistan and Khaljis were ruling the southern Afghanistan, rural Afghanistan. And by 1300 AD, if you see, there was a new ruler came from Central Asia, because Afghanistan has border with Central Asia. It has border with Uzbekistan, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. So from Central Asia, a new invader came into the Afghanistan. He invaded, and his name, very very important name in the history of even India, his name was Timur. 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 So he completely shattered the Khaljis and the Ilkhanids, and he established Timurid Empire. The Timurid Empire. And by 1350 AD, when Timurid Empire started flourishing in Afghanistan, what was happening on the world stage, if you observe? This was the period in the Europe, if you see, especially in the Europe, towards the Italy as the epicenter. You see, after 1350 AD, there was an Italian Renaissance. That means these religious empires started falling down, and a scientific thinking, the rational thinking started emerging up. That was the period after 1350. This was on the world history, we call it as Renaissance period, especially in the Europe, Italian Renaissance period. So people started leaving religion as their basis of life and started looking out for scientific or rational thinking. So religious empires started falling down in the Europe. So Renaissance, cultural Renaissance, they are questioning everything. They are not believing anything just on the basis of Bible or just on the basis of Old Testament or New Testament. This was happening in the Europe, and where in the Afghanistan after 1350 AD, in the contemporary period, under the Timurid Empire, we have also seen this cultural renaissance. Afghanistan's Timurid Renaissance, we call it as. Renaissance even occurred in the Afghanistan, sir. Sir, in the Afghanistan during that period, when science was started evolving in the Italian and European countries, European empires to say, even in the Timurid Empire of Afghanistan, we have seen scientific analysis and scientific experiments started. People started thinking scientifically. This cultural rebirth even happened in the Afghanistan, sir. This is the history of Afghanistan. Under the Timurid Empire, cultural rebirth started. And by 1500 BC, AD, if you see, so this cultural rebirth happened around 100-150 years. And by 1500s AD, that is in the 16th century, if you see, there was another person who came from the Central Asia, who overthrew this, who occupied a main city of the Afghanistan, that is the Kabul city. And the person who occupied, who is very, very, very important to even Indian history, sir. Why I am taking this special class in Afghanistan? Because if you understand the history of Afghanistan, you will very easily understand the history of India when I take the latter periods of Indian history in the coming classes. Because everything happens in the Afghanistan has an influence in the India. Because if one has to reach India, one has to cross Afghanistan. So every empire we see in the India, actually which starts from the Afghanistan area. So by 1500s AD, towards the end of the medieval period, if you see, a new person came from Central Asia, a new ruler came and occupied the Afghanistan's capital city, that was Kabul. And the name is very important, sir, please remember. And this was Babur, who was to establish a new empire called Mughal Empire in India after 1520s. So first he came to Afghanistan and he captured the Kabul before entering the India. This who is that? The Babur. Babur has come and captured the Kabul. So this is happening in the 1500s, and from around 1600s and till 1700. If you see 1600s and the 1700s, during these 200 years, there was a huge influence of foreign powers. There was a huge influence of foreign powers on this Afghanistan. Why? Because this is the period 1600s and till 1700. This 200 years period, we have seen the flourishing of the Mughal Empire. Babur, after capturing the Kabul around 1500, he came back. He still forwarded to India and he established the Mughal Empire. So this got flourished in 1500s, 1600s and till 1700. So this 300 years period. So towards the south of the Afghanistan, they have a huge empire, Mughal Empire. So automatically Mughal Empire's influence was there heavily under Afghanistan for these 300 years. And in the contemporary of Mughal Empire, in the Iran, that is the west of the Afghanistan, that was the Iranian Safavids, the contemporary of the Mughals. So Iranian Safavids were also having a huge influence on the Afghanistan. And in the same period, towards the north of the Afghanistan, there came a Uzbek Khanate. In the Uzbekistan, a new empire came up towards the north of the Afghanistan, which was flourished during this period, 1600s and 1700 till 1705 and 6 years. That was the Uzbek Khanate. So you can imagine, just like this, in the center Afghanistan was there. Towards the south, Mughal Empire was there, very mighty empire. It has an influence over Afghanistan. Towards the west, they have the Iranian Safavids. They also have a huge influence on Afghanistan. And towards the north, Uzbek Khanate was there, and they were also having a huge influence on the Afghanistan. So under the foreign influences, Afghanistan was struggled itself to establish their independence, to have their freedom. They struggled from three sides, they struggled to have their independence till around 1700 AD. So this is what happened in the medieval Afghanistan. Now from here, so please listen, very very important, the modern Afghanistan. Actually from here starts the exact linking up of the events which culminated and led to the today's situation in Afghanistan, that is the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. So what happened in the modern Afghanistan after 1700? What happened? Let us discuss.